He has an Emmy. He's a James Baird winner, and he's one of the greatest, most dynamic, creative chefs in the world. Put your hands together for Chef Emeril Lagasse.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. How's everybody? Thank you for being here. Before I start demonstrating a few of my newest pans, the grill pan and this other grill pan, we're gonna do a couple of grill dishes today. I had some folks in the back that kind of asked me before I came out. They were confused, a lot of the culinary students, about what the difference is between Creole and Cajun or Acadian cooking. Are you guys confused too about that? So I thought I'd start by just sort of clarifying what really the difference is between the two. So Creole, which is mostly what kind of cooking that I do, New Creole, is sort of the city version of Louisiana cooking. The city version being influenced by New Orleans being such a great port city that it's influenced obviously by other cultures. So we have the Spanish, we have French, which is the obvious foundation of what Creole is, but there's also African American, and a lot of the Creoles that moved in from the Caribbean, actually a lot of them from Haiti. So that's really the foundation of what Creole cooking is more the city cooking. And there are some differences between Acadian, or what's Cajun, or the city cooking. So Acadian, Cajun, if you will, is the country cooking. So that's influenced by a lot of folks that moved in the 1700s mostly from Nova Scotia, that area, moved to the country of Louisiana. They do a lot of farming and a lot of things from the land. It's more rustic. But it's predominantly French coming from the land. Crawfish, étouffées, et cetera, et cetera. That's really sort of the difference between the country style cooking and the city style cooking. It's not so much one is hotter, spicier than the other. The food in Louisiana is always well seasoned. I refer and tell people that it's like sort of building a house. You have a solid foundation, and basically then you build on that foundation as far as layers of flavor. The only difference in Louisiana is that universally in cooking, we use a mirepoix, and we do use a mirepoix, but we also use what we call the Trinity. And only in Louisiana will you find that. Bell pepper, celery, and onions. That's the predominant, what's called Trinity, which is what we use in a lot of our layers in our cooking, the Trinity. Still use a mirepoix, carrot, celery, and onions, but in Louisiana, Trinity, bell pepper, celery, and onions. Hopefully now it's clarified. Today, we're going to begin with a very, very simple sort of panini made with some beautiful, and hard to believe, in March we're already getting pretty yummy tomatoes already. These happen to be from Florida. Some cremini mushrooms, 2 different types of cheese, because what we're going to build here is actually a very simple a truffle grilled cheese sandwich, and we're going to griddle it, and using some wonderful country bread, very, very simple. Some prosciutto. You could use any ham that you want. You could use Serrano ham. You could use really whatever kind of ham you want. I'm going to use prosciutto today. And we begin by just sort of layering the first layer of bread with some good olive oil. And we begin by layering the prosciutto as the bottom layer of this very simple we'll make one good one. Yeah. So after the prosciutto, what we'll do is we'll just sort of layer now a little bit of the tomato. Some sea salt. Fresh pepper, very simple. The next layer, what we'll do is we'll add some of the cremini mushrooms. You have to thinly slice them, and you don't want to pile them. You want to sort of layer this. It's very important that there's a layering effect here. And then we build. This is sort of just a basic grated fontina cheese. And this is some really yummy, there's a lot of them out there now, this truffle fused cheese. Basically what they do is they just, when they do the cheese in the aging process of the cheese, they just sort of put, in the little cave, they just sort of put some truffles in there, and it aromats the flavor of the cheese. You can do the same thing with eggs, by the way. If you have a truffle, you put a dozen eggs inside of a paper bag and put the truffle in there, and a couple of days you have truffled eggs. I tried to do it to myself, but it didn't work. So a good amount of this truffle cheese. So this pan that I'm getting ready to use, it's actually an enameled cast iron. And I have it in saute pans, in a griddle pan. It's fairly new, actually brand new to our collection. But here's the thing that I love about this. So now we're going to take olive oil. Big mistake that people make when they try to do this is they have, I don't know why we sort of learn this sort of no-no, if you will, about controlling the heat. We have a tendency of just turning everything full blast and then we wonder why we burn more things than not. So it's very important that we control the heat. I'm on about sort of medium right now, and this is fairly hot. And you don't want to, you want to use a press. But I can tell you right now, it's too hot, the heat. So if I don't turn it now, we won't have magic. While we're waiting for this, in the 12-ounce skillet that you see, we're going to talk about a shrimp and chili stew that we're going to talk about in a second. The other reason why you don't want it so hot, folks, is because you want the inside to really sort of cook. It's not just about the outside. It's a pretty good breakfast. Okay. So we pressed it to just sort of make sure that the inside is hot, not warm, that it's hot. So then when we're ready, so we just sort of have this and it doesn't get any simpler than that. You can garnish it however you want. But a little truffle grilled cheese sandwich for breakfast. So we're going to go to another grill pan. This happens to be one that when I first came out with cast iron, was one of the first pans that I had in my cast iron collection. The great thing is it comes pre-seasoned, and some of you may not know what that is. Some of you do. In the old days when you bought a cast iron pan, and in Louisiana we cook a lot with cast iron, you had to season them. And I'm talking about if you have, some of you have pans out there that, you know, maybe have been passed down or been around for 15, 20, 25 years, they last that long because the way that cast iron is, it can hold and penetrate the heat up to 600, 700 degrees. So ours comes seasoned. In the old days, what you had to do is you'd get a cast iron pan and you'd have to use a couple of boxes of salt and put it on the stove or put it in the oven and season it with salt so that it would season the pan. Today with technology, it sort of comes pre-seasoned. So what we're going to do before I go to the shrimp dish, I have these beautiful sort of loin chops of lamb. And I like these, I like loin chops, but I love these particular little T-bone because I love this little piece of what it provides. That's sort of the little bit of the tenderloin from the lamb. So I kind of got the best of both worlds here, sort of like a T-bone steak. You want to season them with a little bit of oil. Some salt. And of course, some pepper. So that's one side. And we'll start on that side first. So if we're at home right now, we'd probably have set off the smoke alarm And the neighbors are going crazy. They're wondering what's going on. It's false alarm. So now we want to season this side here so that both sides are seasoned. And what we did earlier is we just simply took a little bit of, you can use just regular beef stock. And what I do to make a very simple sauce, as you'll see, this is not so thick. And we've reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced. And what happens is you have this evaporation that happens, and then you have this concentration of flavors as it starts to reduce. It just continues to get stronger, a little thicker. And you can thicken it with a little bit of cornstarch, or you could use a roux, or arrowroot. Those are thickening agents. Then when you get it to where it's nice and reduced, then we flavored it with shallots, with garlic. Well, let's do that right now. So we'll take a little saucepan. We'll add some shallot to it, some garlic, a little bit of aromatics. And one of my favorite with lamb is rosemary. And we'll just begin to start just kind of letting that just sort of sweat out a little bit. You can see that we didn't add a lot of fat to the pan. The natural fat of the lamb is really what's sort of really being cohesive with this cast iron. Real nice. Once that begins to just sort of begin the flavors of the shallot and the garlic, we're just going to add a little bit of red wine. Is there a trick?
The old college trick.
The old college trick, okay. Ah, thank you.
I know my wine.
I love it. You just gave away all your secrets. So let's let that reduce a little bit. What kind of wine? I really don't use any, I don't cook with any wine I wouldn't drink. It's very simple. Let's let that reduce a little bit. And then we'll turn over our lamb now. Get that other side in the same playing field. Smells good, huh? Yeah. Then a lot of times what I do is when I'm doing this in the pan, particularly with cast iron, I'll just use the aromatics just to sort of flavor it. And it doesn't seem like it is, but you'll see what happens here, the magic here shortly. You're just kind of getting that flavor of that delicious rosemary right into the lamb. Now, we're very fortunate in Louisiana to have amazing shrimp pretty much a good 10 months out of the year. A lot of the shrimpers are in the Gulf and are shrimping. I'm very blessed to have beautiful Gulf shrimp, which are the white shrimp. More towards Texas and Galveston area in the Gulf, their shrimp tend to be a little bit more brown. Nothing wrong with that. Just the habitat of water, nature, et cetera, et cetera. But in the Gulf, by Louisiana, Mississippi to Florida, the shrimp are the white Gulf shrimp. They cook very fast, so what we actually did is we took coconut milk and we sort of reduced coconut milk with some onion and some chilies. However, and how much heat you want to have, depending on how much chilies you want to use. And you could use Calabrian chilies, you can use fresh chilies, okay? Not so much jalapeno, but more chilies. I wouldn't go habanero, but there are a lot of peppers that you can use and get that flavor. And we just sort of cook this together and cook it down before we add the shrimp. So we actually have the flavor of the sauce reduced down. So saute the onion, add the chilies, coconut milk, and let it cook and let it cook. Let it evaporate, let it concentrate in flavors, let it cook. And then you add the shrimp. It's the same thing like when I do a shrimp boil. I have the boil first before I even think about adding the shrimp. So you're actually cooking the water so that the spices that you put in there, you're actually extracting those spices and flavors before you even add the shrimp, because the shrimp are going to take just minutes. And we tend, when we cook shrimp, to overcook shrimp because we don't realize how delicate that they really are. So we add the shrimp, and now we're finishing it in our skillet. A 14-inch skillet. Good size. Once we do that, we'll taste it to see if we have to re-season it. Another thing that we forget to do. We get the taste, we wait to the end, then we season the food, and then it's too late. You have to season it, and then we'll re-season it, but you have to taste. Oh, it's perfect. Every now and then you get lucky, you know what I mean? So, we use and eat a lot of rice in Louisiana, as we have rice fields, which have crawfish during the crawfish season, and then the fields is flooded, and then we grow rice. Gumbo being a great example, or this dish being even a better example. So now we'll take our shrimp dish. You see how perfectly cooked they are? I have to give the credit and the students back there who worked so hard to make this possible. I want to thank your team. I want to thank you, Deb. Come on up here, Deb. This lady's the one that sort of makes it happen right here. She's a sweetheart. You hungry? Thanks, Deb. So there's the shrimp with chilies and rice. One of the things that people, we're going to turn these real quick. Look pretty good, huh? Can you smell the rosemary? I love that. So now what we're going to do is, our red wine is reduced, and we're going to take that reduction now. And we're going to sort of finish this up. Take our lamb, Take our rosemary. Yeah, we just set the alarm off again. Neighbors are so happy with us right now. You serve this with some roasted potatoes. You could serve it with rice. You could serve it with skillet potatoes. I happen to be very fond of this combination. Combination of lamb, combination of rosemary, and don't gasp, the combination of blue cheese. So we'll just take a little bit of blue cheese and we'll just crumble a little bit of the blue cheese. You'll see the reason for my madness here in a minute. Not too much, just a little. So now we'll just take a little bit of that oil from the rosemary. We've already set the alarm off twice. Why not 3 times, just. And then we'll just take that wonderful sauce and just ever so slightly nappe it over the cheese. That looks pretty good to me. Hopefully it does to you as well. Little lamb T-bone steaks, rosemary, and red wine sauce. Very, very simple. So I'd like to just open it up a little bit. And of course, I want to thank KitchenAid for their incredible support. And thank all of you for being here. Are there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Preferably food. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed when you were doing the lamb, you didn't temp it. When you were cooking the lamb, you didn't temp it. How do you cook your lamb?
I can't hear her.
At what temperature do you cook your lamb? I noticed you weren't temping it.
These here, I'm sorry about that.
No, no problem.
You can use a thermometer to check the internal temperature. These happen to be mid-rare. How do I know? Yes. Right. So we're from the same school. Thank you. Question?
Do you cook any Portuguese foods lately?
Yes,
or?
I cook a lot of Portuguese food. My mom was Portuguese, and my dad was French Canadian, but my mom ruled the house, so we grew up Portuguese. So I learned a lot about, and I lived in a community that was predominantly Portuguese. So that was sort of my culture growing up was Portuguese food. Before I started learning more about cooking, my foundation was more about Portuguese food, and that's what she cooked, and that's what I learned to cook. And it's amazing because all these years later, I find myself always going back, particularly with my family. I go back to some of those dishes that were like childhood memories, like caldo verde is one example that I do very often. I still use the same chorizo and linguiça that I grew up on from Massachusetts. I still do it and use it in my restaurants. It's just I can't get away from it, Thank you.
What cut of lamb that we ask for that dish, Emeril?
I'm sorry?
What cut of the lamb?
These are actually the T-bone steaks of the lamb. And you know what? It's a really great question, because you go to the grocery store, or if you have a butcher that you visit, okay, these are not usually going to be in the case. They'll have lamb, but they'll usually be the chops, the lollipops or the chops. And you shouldn't be afraid to talk to your butcher, even if it's at the grocery store, and ask them about, like, are you planning on getting any lamb T-bone in? And you'll be surprised, to probably have some in the back that are not out, or probably the next time you come, he'll or she will have them for you. So you shouldn't hesitate to ask about that, just because it's not in the refrigerated case at the grocery store, that you should inquire about it. And I always say to people about lamb, it's that fish, which I'm a fanatic about, should have no smell. The only smell that it should have, it should smell like cucumbers, being so fresh. So if you get a piece of fish and it has an odor, go for the lamb. Thank you all very much for coming. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chef Emeril Lagasse, everyone.